Heartbreaking stories that will move you to tears are among the most beautiful stories you can read. Although they may bring tears to your eyes due to the emotional impact of the events, upon finishing them, you will find that you have learned a great deal. You will glean many valuable lessons from them. Therefore, we present a collection of these stories, suitable for both children and adults, in this article. Heartbreaking stories. These stories are among the best stories that can change a person's life and perspective. They can also shift one's outlook on life from pessimism to positivity. One such story is the poor family whose circumstances changed. There was a woman who told people that she and her husband lived in a humble house. God had blessed them with a child, but their circumstances changed drastically. They were no longer able to meet their daily needs. After a while, their financial hardship began to negatively affect both her and her husband, ultimately causing the wife to be unable to breastfeed her child. Because she was unable to breastfeed her child naturally, her husband started buying formula for her to feed the baby. However, he didn't have enough money to buy it regularly, and their situation became increasingly difficult. Their debts also began to accumulate, but one day something unexpected happened, and their circumstances changed drastically. The reason for this was that the wife was listening to a religious program about charity and the importance of giving it. She learned that the best form of charity is feeding the poor, but she realized that she didn't even have enough food for herself and her baby. So, she came up with an idea. She would take out a plate full of rice for the birds to eat, and she did so the next day. See here, touching stories about obeying and pleasing one's husband. Chapter 2. On the same day she listened to the religious program, her husband heard the sheikh at the mosque say that the Holy Quran and P. Chapter 2. On the same day she listened to the religious program, her husband had heard the sheikh at the mosque say that the Holy Quran and prayer were the only way to be saved from anything. They also opened doors of sustenance for Muslims, so they established a daily program for themselves. This program allowed them to read the Holy Quran, seek forgiveness, and send blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad. After adhering to this daily program, they found that after just 1 week, their situation had changed for the better. A man came to them to repay his old debt, which he owed to the husband's father. He also asked the husband to partner with him in a profitable business venture, God willing. As a way of repaying his debt, the husband agreed, and his livelihood increased significantly, transforming the family's circumstances for the better. The story of the Jewish man and the Muslim. It is said that there was a righteous man who followed the religion of Islam, and his close friend was a follower of the Jewish faith. Their religion did not prevent them from being on good terms with one another, and they exchanged family visits from time to time to strengthen their bond. The Muslim man always mentioned the name of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, before beginning anything, intending that God Almighty would fulfill his needs and ease his affairs. Because he constantly repeated this practice in front of his Jewish friend, the friend was always thinking of a way to get the Muslim to abandon this habit. An idea came to him, and he began to put it into action. He went to his friend and told him that he would be traveling for an extended period to attend to some business. He also said that he wanted to leave a valuable ring with him so that it wouldn't be lost while he was busy with his errands. He told his friend that matters are only resolved through invoking blessings upon the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Indeed, his friend left his. It is said that there was once a wealthy merchant who cared for nothing in this life except accumulating money and expanding his business. One day, this merchant returned home, and his wife told him that their son was crying bitterly in his room and that something was making him very sad. So, he became very upset and went into his son's room and found him indeed drowning in tears. He asked him what was wrong. His son told him that he was sad about their neighbor who had passed away that day. His father was very surprised that his son was grieving for this man. So, he thought to console his son by joking with him, and told him that their neighbor was an old man. He was also ill, and his illness had worsened in his later years. So, God Almighty wanted to relieve him of all the pain he was suffering by taking his soul. He added to his son that if it had been him who died, he wouldn't have grieved and wept so much as he did for their neighbor, whom he didn't even know. He also told him that even the old man's own children hadn't wept so much for him. The young boy was astonished by his father's words and became very angry with him. Chapter 2. After the boy became very angry with his father, he told him that their old neighbor had cared for him and encouraged him to pray every day. He would take him to the mosque for every prayer so they could pray together. He would also teach him verses from the Quran himself and encourage him to memorize them by giving him rewards every time he recited well. The boy then began to blame his father, saying that he hadn't done any of these things for him. This was because his father was more interested in his business than in his son. The boy's words deeply affected his father. He left him in his room and went to his wife to tell her everything that had happened between him and his son. He sat thinking for a long time and realized his son was right in everything he had said. So he went to him, apologized, and asked for stories about husbands punishing their wives. It is assumed that every husband loves and respects his wife, especially since God Almighty has commanded men to treat women well. Every woman is the queen of her home, and the husband should treat her with the utmost kindness. Despite all of the above, many husbands do not treat their wives as they should. On the contrary, they treat them badly, lacking love, respect, and security. We have a collection of such examples in this article. Follow along. The story of the deceitful rich man. There was a very wealthy and highly educated man named Hussein. He was a businessman in the field of investment and contracting. He decided to marry a girl named Amina, who lived across the street from his house. As soon as he proposed to her in a traditional marriage, not based on love, she immediately accepted. Amina felt special and unique that Hussein had chosen her over all the other girls. Once the engagement was finalized, the marriage was quick because he was financially well off. They spent their honeymoon in the Maldives, which made Amina feel like she was in a dream. But upon their return, her husband's true nature began to emerge. He was short-tempered and moody, consumed all his time by work, and neglected her for days at a time, without even a word from her. Any disagreement between them was met with extreme anger and harsh treatment. He showed no respect for her parents, treating them disrespectfully and in many other ways. God willed that she become pregnant, and she gave birth to a beautiful son named Yusuf. At first, he was overjoyed and proud of him. However, after several years, he began to grow tired of Yusuf. Whenever he cried, he would leave their bedroom and sleep elsewhere in the house. Years later, Yusuf was 5 years old, and Amina discovered she was pregnant for the second time. One day, Amina was asleep when Hussein woke her up abruptly and angrily, demanding that she silence Yusuf, who was crying.